is selling shoes a good way to make money? Then I want to introduce you to someone who has done $1 million in sales selling sneakers. And guess what? He is just 21 years old. I think you're going to like this one. Stay tuned. Mitch, thank you so much for joining me. For anyone who doesn't know who you are, can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey so far?
So my name's Mitchell Price. I'm 21, and I've been selling sneakers on Instagram on Amazon, excuse me. This is my third year. So started off Instagram, but now we're on Amazon, and yeah, I love it, but it's an interesting little niche of Amazon and a little different than all the other products. There's a lot more hassle, but I think it's a great way for people to start their Amazon journey.
My God, I love it. You say it's a little niche, and I'm like, you've done $1 million, mate. That's like not little, that's like huge. And the fact that you're 21 is like absolutely incredible. We talked a little bit off air. You said you knew a bit about sneakers before you got into the Amazon game, which was about 3 years ago. Start me back at the beginning of your kind of entrepreneurial reselling sneaker journey.
In my sophomore year of high school, I know some people remember this, but that's when Yeezys were hot, with Kanye West, and they were going for $220 on Adidas.com and then selling on the aftermarket for $1,000. And that was my first introduction to resell. Once you learn from there, you got addicted one time. And then I did that all throughout high school, just selling sneakers, a lot of Jordans, just doing bulk, anything I could get my hands on them, just hustling for them. And then my sophomore year of college is when I started fully going with Amazon. I was actually introduced by a friend, and I'll never forget, I saw my first ever sales, like a Nike Elite backpack. From that one instant when I realized I could be driving in my car at the beach and selling units and making money, without doing anything, I was blown away and knew I wanted to pursue this. I mean, there was always at least 300 pairs, I would say, at my house, taking up a spare bedroom with my mom yelling at me with an early age, and she'd photograph my sneakers for me and we'd throw them on Instagram. I've always been obsessed with the hustle, I like to get after something, and then Amazon was the easiest thing for me to get after, especially while being at school, because like we talked about earlier, there's no exact time frame when you could work on your Amazon business. It could be any time, so it's really easy for me.
I know, and I think if anyone doesn't know, fulfillment by Amazon is Amazon dispatch it to the customer, and because of this you are able to work on your own time, ship it to Amazon then ship it to the customer once they place the order. You have a lot more flexibility in your working hours. Now, you talked about it a minute ago, the hustle, the grind, you're addicted to it. What does that mean in your world? Define the hustle. What was it like? Kind of give me some numbers. What does that mean?
I felt like it was never really number or money oriented, but it was in the beginning, obviously when I was in high school, it was more just kind of having something to do and getting after it. Obviously it was fun making money. But then at college, I would think with my sophomore year, when I kind of didn't really know what I wanted to do and didn't really obviously like a 9 to 5 like most of the people, it became I was just obsessed with learning the business model, getting it done, and just controlling the controllables day in and day out to see what happened. And I mean, I'll never forget my first $100,000 month, or last Q4 we did over 150, and it was just, you become obsessed, you love it, and you almost see a way to break free, because the structure I had was so great. Imagine just being able to work whenever you want, not clock into an office, get paid when you're on vacation, and manage your whole structure in life. That idea was so fascinating and addicting to me, especially when I realized that you can make an absurd amount of money. It was just insane.
Let's say, for example, you did 100,000 in sales. Typically, what kind of profit would you be looking to make out of that?
With sneakers, all said and done, I would say probably 13 to 14, but that's because my expenses were so high because I was at school. So any single task that when I would think I'm gonna fail a class, or I was something's gonna go south, I would outsource everything. So I had a full-time employee back home last year who was one of my best friends, who's now actually my business partner. He has his own entity too now, and we work together now full-time. My best friend Luca, but he worked for me last Q4 and when I went at college, and he was a really hefty expense because he was working a lot. But yeah, I would say we closed at probably 14%, give or take. And as we've increased our now our margin though is way higher. It's not even close to that. We've been making way over 14% the last 2 to 3 months, just because we talked about earlier, getting a little more diversifying from sneakers and just eliminating the breakage and pushing the business model direction where I'm cutting down fees, but also maximizing profitability. So I realized I almost had to pay more in certain areas. And then within a month, I make my money back. So I got a new prep center, hired a couple of VAs, really trying to take it to the next level. And one aspect aspect that allowed me to do that was like I put everything back in every single month. So
I'm sure a lot of people are going to look at your journey and go, man, if I made 100,000, I would want more than 14,000 profits. What would you say to that?
Because we were flipping over 100,000 every single month. I mean, when you put it at the standpoint where obviously in school too, like I'm paying a lot of expenses that I wouldn't have to normally pay, but it was almost passive. Like there's been some months where I literally haven't done anything. Like I've done the minimum, and we would do over 100,000 in sales and bring home like, especially the 14%, like obviously when it goes up during Q4 and stuff like that. But it's to the point where I was probably working 30-hour weeks last year when I was in school, maybe less, and just pushing huge numbers. Why wouldn't anyone want to do that? And you think about it salary based. I mean, like when we graduate, we're going to make the average incomes out of my school is like 70 grand. And I'm like, I can easily double 14% when I'm full time. So
I have to get my calculator out. So like 120 hours a month, 14,000 divided by 120 hours, you're on $116 per hour. Better than your local McDonald's.
Yeah. And it's great because you learn so much. You know, it's sometimes, I always say like, it's not always about the money, but I really feel like once you put your all into something and really, like I really have gone for it, especially last summer, like full. And now I'm on the path where my parents are like, all right, you don't have to get a job after college, which was pretty hard for them to wrap their head around. But it's just, you wake up really purpose driven and driven to, you know, make it work. And especially when you have a great team and friends around you that want to see you succeed, it's like, it's fulfilled. I would say it provides a lot of fulfillment in my life. And I don't know what my life would be like if I wasn't working on this project every single day.
It's a bit weird when your parents are like, you should get a job after college, and every job you look at is going to earn you less money than your current side hustle.
Yes,
like
significantly less.
Significant. Yeah.
There was a lot of, this summer it was like, there was a lot of fights at the kitchen table where I thought my mom was going to kick me out. My parents are the best. They're honestly been more than supportive through my whole journey with Amazon because they've seen the highs where like I just was on top of the world and thought like everything was great, but they've seen like the lows where I'm trying to keep it together, coming home at 2 a.m. every single night and just working my ass off, and they've been there through supporting it all. So they were, once I had their support to really take a year off too, it's nice because when stuff does go south sometimes, my mom kind of is like, she grounds me, you know, she'll be like, all right, relax, we always figure it out.
What are some of the things that go south? Like, let's not sit here and paint this picture that building your own business, Amazon is all, you know, rainbows, sunshine and rainbows. Like, what are some of the problems? Tell me about that.
I would say with sneakers, a big one is inauthentic claims. And so like someone will claim my sneaker is inauthentic, and then I have to find some way to fax. Like I remember I was at school, so I had to get someone to fax through 1,000 receipts because I couldn't find this one shoe, and then Amazon's threatening you, and then it's just, or like a shipment gets lost, or like you're dealing with a supplier and it's supposed to be a $15,000 order, they only send you $8,000 of product. It's like, it's just, you're always on the clock, and you know, it gets overwhelming too because again, like I have this whole other side of me where I'm taking 5 classes and supposed to be studying, so to speak. I guess it comes to the point where it's like, I always am like, how much stress can I take? But part of it, I feel like I've kind of adapted the philosophy where I embrace the struggle, I embrace the hard and ugly, because it makes me so much more well-rounded as not only my business, but I felt like as like who I am, being able to like have faith, like, oh, I could conquer these problems when everything goes south.
Why not just quit college? Come on, man, you're making more money than you're going to get.
Yeah, well, there was only one time where I thought I was going to drop out, but it's also, I really do also enjoy school, parts of it. I also here at school, I'm very lucky where I actually have a lot of my friends like know about my business and what I do, and very supportive. So there's that aspect of that. And it's also the idea of becoming more well-rounded, because I could throw everything into the work, make more money, and not go to school. But at the end of the day, it's almost like, am I going to be more well-rounded in my life for even later on in business? Because school also teaches me a lot of stuff that isn't directly correlated with making money, but I think is important in becoming who I want to be and getting that like life experience every day.
And if someone right now, let's say for example, they're in the same situation as you, they've got a business, it's making them good money, and they're thinking, man, I should just drop out, and everyone around them telling them to drop out, what advice would you have for them?
You know, I think it's really circumstance driven, but I never encourage anyone to drop out. I mean, obviously everyone's finances are different, whether they're paying for school or not. But I think it's kind of a point where like, if you can manage the business with college, this is a good time in your life to really, I've met some great people at school, which is, I'm very thankful I never did drop out. And I've learned a lot had a lot of great and bad experiences where it's like you learn, it's all about, I think it comes back to that central theme of being well-rounded in different aspects of your life besides work. With that being said, like I think college is a great place where you meet a lot of people and you learn a certain amount about yourself. And I'm shown you can go to a university and still make money and still find 40 hours a week minimum. I mean, I'm 21 years old. I don't need that much sleep. I got unicorn blood. I wake up every morning ready to get after it and I don't get tired. So it's like there's no excuse. I mean, at our age, we have maximum energy.
You talked about it earlier on, like the hustle, you love the grind. We say, like, I asked for numbers. I'm going to come back to that, but can you give me like a specific, like, give me a typical week, Monday to Sunday or Sunday to Saturday, however you run it. What does it look like? What time do you normally wake up? What time do you normally go to bed? What are you doing? Like, off camera, I showed you my calendar because
yeah.
And then, tell me about your calendar. What does it look like, and how do you balance that work-life balance?
Yeah, well, I really struggle with that in school, as my parents could attest. When my GPA came back a couple times, and it was like, whoa, this is your grades need to go up. I feel like one of the things I realized is, like, when creating my schedule is consistency. So I like it to be a consistent schedule day in and day out. And I kind of, this is like, we're just back at school. This is my 4th week here, and I feel like I kind of drafted the perfect schedule where it's, I'll wake up at 7:45, I have my classes every day at 8:30, but I get out of class by noon. So then noon to 5 is usually my business time. That's where like everyone knows, all my friends, like the calls start coming in and everything getting done. And then I, go to the gym, maybe do a little bit of homework, and then I try to carve out 2 hours at night. But I mean, now it's all really variable based about what's going on in the business and what's going on in school. But I learned that like if I take a day off, like where I just don't maybe put in 2 hours of work, I'm going to fall further behind the next day. So I really try to put in the max amount of time day in and day out. And another really important thing that I've learned in like the concept of routine is like keeping the mind sharp. Like if I need to be mentally there like 24/7 to make these decisions, because if there's some external factor, like I'm feeling anxious or stressed, like that's when mistakes are made and I feel like I'm not on my game. So I usually like have the same routine where like I wake up every morning, like don't touch the phone for an hour, or like I wake up, or before I go to bed, I have my 2 books that I'll read a chapter out of each book, write down what I like document the business pretty precisely, where I'll write down what's working, what's not, and it kind of centers me for the day ahead. Because I've gone to the point over the summer where it's nonstop, just like 16-hour days. And like I wouldn't say burnout, but it's like my decision making is impaired. So I really try to make sure my decision making is never hindered, if that makes sense.
I think the kind of best analogy is this is a marathon, not a sprint. You can go really fast, but you're not going to keep that up for a long period of time. And what you're trying to do is keep a really good rhythm going and then constantly improve that. But you're never going like 24-hour days and like nonstop. It's like I need to have balance within that day to make sure that I'm being productive and getting things done. So if I clarify, 7:45 wake up, you're straight basically into college, and then noon till 5 work on the business. Then it's kind of some other like college, free time, gym.
Gotta work out.
I love the fact that you like, by the way, like some people will be like, man, I don't have time to work out. That's a really common thing. Like, man, you could make more money if you didn't work out. Tell me about that. Why do you work out?
Again, it's from the mental clarity's there too. Like if there's a decision where I don't know what I'm going to do in work, sometimes I'll literally run on it, or like I'll work out and I'm like, all right, I'm going to call you back in an hour. It's like one of those things that clears your mind, like a healthy body, healthy mind. I just think it's important, stable in your life, not only physically, but mentally. And it's like almost that reset, because I feel like after I work out, I can work the rest of the night and I'm sharp. Compared if I went like 1 to 8 after going to class, it's not so much about being busy. It's about how productive I am in that time and the tasks that get accomplished within that time frame. So I really value like the productivity within those hours, not necessarily how many hours I'm working.
I won't lie, like I shared my time box with you off air before the call. I'm pretty religious and I have like my time box of working out, and I'm really into that now, like making time for the gym, so important. At your age, I remember, man, I just want to go get drunk. I want to talk about girls. I want to like, how do you like, and hey, like, I won't deny, like, I'm significantly older than you, but the idea is, still sometimes I want to go a bit crazy. Like, how do you manage that? Or how did you get into a more structured way of thinking or building a good rhythm? Because we understand that this is a marathon. It does take time.
Yeah.
Like, how did you change?
Yeah, that's actually like such a great question. I talk about this with my friends all the time because my friends will attest I do get a little crazy sometimes. Like it becomes to the point is the baseline of fulfillment and progress. Like I always speak that like Monday through Friday, like I'm progress and fulfillment driven, where I'm trying to accomplish the most and push myself to be better, like mentally, physically, and business wise. But then on the weekends at school, like now, like Friday and Saturday, you know, it's not all work. There's a lot of fun and games, but I'm at the point where I'm 21 years old. If I'm going to wake up and I can get after it the next day, no matter what, it's about finding those balance. And again, it kind of depends how I'm feeling in my life. My last year of college, after Q4, like the business saw some serious problems where like I had stale inventory, I had stuff that wasn't selling, like it was just a hassle. My buddy couldn't prep out everything, and I did 2 months with no drinking, going home every weekend and working on the business. So like it kind of depends what's going on in my life. Tell you what, I feel better in the morning, having a great productive day and striving and actually getting better than going out and having a lot of drinks and when I wake up in the morning. You know, it's hard to manage both aspects, and I'm definitely learning that, because when you work so much, it is easier to get crazy on Friday and Saturday, but you kind of got to look at the vision and goal, and I'm still figuring it out. I'm definitely still figuring it out. I think all my friends could attest to that too. I'm trying to manage it all.
It's right. I think there's a saying which I heard, like I know it's obvious. It's like you can have anything you want, you just can't have everything you want.
Yeah.
And then when you talk about your vision and your goal, it's about really defining that and to say like that is the key. Some things are going to have to give, and that might be that I don't party as much and I don't do so much. Don't get me wrong, I've partied like insane amounts.
Yeah.
And while at the time of partying it was great, the next day it wasn't. And I mean like 6 months in Thailand partying. But you know, like I do look back on that and was like, that was probably quite a big waste of my life. And my business was nearly failed for the second time during that time. You know, we've got to be careful.
Yeah, 100%. Like the main problem with me is like, I feel like if I go out and I don't have that good night's sleep, it's my mind's like not sharp. Like I'm not like pinpointing, like I have energy, but I'm not sharp. It's again my senior year in college, so it's not like I'm gonna do an audible and like not go out and see my friends, because I really do enjoy that in moderate amounts, unless, especially when the business is doing great, it's way easier to go out. It's a balance, you know? And this is one aspect of my life I kind of figured out where like, this is the only time I'm probably gonna really do this, where, you know, they're going out, like hanging out with friends like that. So I'm gonna enjoy it to a certain extent, but make sure that the progress is also there.
Making money selling shoes. I want to go high level strategy, what's really worked for you. And then I'd like to get into the tactics, you know, like problems and how specifically things that we can work with. You've talked about mindset, having a clear goal, massive hustle work ethic. We talked about something, like what are the other things that have really had an impact on you that maybe, you know, kind of like the high level, like thinking. I think even we talked a bit about off air, you talked about having a good network. Like what kind of things have had a real impact upon that have allowed you to get to that success at such a young age?
I would say definitely the one aspect too that was really important for my success was self-discipline. I saw if instead of taking the harder route in the moment was going to lead me to feeling better in long term. So I feel like I was able to really like have the self-discipline when I don't want to do something. I could always make myself do it no matter what. Organization was huge, because you know how overwhelmed you could feel. There's a million different tasks that have to be done every single day. One strategy that my mom actually came up with was writing down the 5 most important tasks for that day and just focusing on getting down those 5 and then keep going down the list. Organization has been huge. And then my network is where I really pride myself on, and think that's really been one of the things to take me to the next level. 100% it has been.
Tell me about network. Like we talked about off air, this is the thing which costs you nothing and probably has the biggest impact on everything, apart from like dedication and hard direction. Like tell me about your network. What does it mean and how has it helped you?
I mean, it's been like everything. Besides the fact like I met my best friend, I met him through this. Now, like after college, we're moving in together, but like it's the fact that, you know, you bring out the best in each other to a certain extent. And then if someone wins or finds a deal or makes progress, you both do. And Amazon's so big that people like don't understand. Like it's better to take people along with you who are going to repay it back, because there's room for everyone to make money. And the network is so important. When there's a problem that needs to be solved, I know who I have to call. When I need help with something, I know who I have to call. And it gets to the point where my friends, like if we find a deal, you get a phone call, hey, buy 100 units of this. Or like, hey, do you want to get in on this deal with us? And it's like, it's a moneymaker, you know? Like I remember the end of the summer, like when I was really like fully going at it outside of school, like it was to the point where I was just picking up the phone and getting opportunities from people who were like, do you want to get in on this deal? Do you want to do this? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the easiest thing in my whole life. But I do really help out my friends too. I really do. I feel like I'm quite actually the problem solver within the group a lot of times too, but it depends.
If people want to replicate, like, you know, I know you're going to get about 1 million messages after this, hey man, I want to join your network, because obviously you see that.
Yeah.
But like, it's very unlikely it's going to happen because it takes a long time. But like, how did you develop that? If someone wants to replicate what you've done in regards to developing that network, and by the way, I will say this to anyone right now, building a network of trusted people who you share, generally like between 3, 5 or 7 people, generally is about 5, I think is the top end, changes the game. It really does. But like, if people want to replicate what you've done, like, how did you do it? What can they do? Let's give them some tactics.
I think part of it was like a little bit, it was just consistent. Like anything good comes with time, you know? Like I was posting on Instagram a good amount, and I was like, really, I still push to this day. You can attest, I post networking always on my story. Steve's going to swipe up. Maybe something works out, maybe something it doesn't. But again, with the network, like if you help people, a lot of times like they'll help you back, you know? If you have good people in your corner, and then a lot of my friends who I work with, like I've met locally too. Like we've met on Instagram, we live near each other, we work together. But I mean, I know one of my good friends I work with, never met him in my whole entire life, and we probably call 3 times a day. It's just great. Like it's a great way to make money, and it's great when you have people in your corner that want to see you win and support you. You know, you have like a sense of, it's when something goes south, you're not in this alone, and my friends know I get a little bit crazy and hyper obsessive, so they can help tone it down too. Yeah, it's really important.
Correct me or clarify if I'm right or wrong. Have a social presence, put yourself out there. By the way, that creates accountability because people could see who you are and what you're about.
Yeah.
Number 2, post consistently, show that you're on it for the long term. Like share what you're doing, do that, network and talk about with other people on social, and then you're going to find your tribe because you'll start naturally talking all the time. And then the final one is give without the expectation to receive, and in turn you shall receive, but it isn't an expectation. It's a thank you so much.
That last one is really spot on too, because I feel like a lot of the people that I've worked with have a high level of respect for me because I will help others out, or like when I have a situation that like doesn't pertain to me but they need solving with something, always do it. It's not like I'm like selfish. And yeah, like if you post on social media, and like I'm a big believer in like hopping on a call. Like I take a lot of calls, and sometimes they're like random people I've never even met, and you know, we bounce ideas off of each other. I learn what they're doing, they learn what I'm doing, and you kind of, here's one way we can collaborate and make money together. So it's pretty cool. And especially to the point where like I've met a lot of sellers who like need help funding deals, where it's like they'll have like a wholesale deal, and they're like, do you want to take 50% of the stock like of a product and help me fund the other half of a deal? So that's been a unique way that I've noticed that I've made I made some big like progress buying wise, just being able to have funding, because you know, someone else finds a deal and they need help funding it.
I love it. Before we get into that kind of like the bigger side, and I know it's like the future of you and where you're going, I'd like to get into more like tactical about sneakers. So if people are like wanting to get into sneakers now, like some of the common questions they're going to have is like, you know, is there still money to be made on sneakers? People have been talking about it for years. Like, is it not saturated? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
No, I would say when I first started, it was easier, but now there's no excuse. The reason you can't make money selling sneakers on Amazon. Anyone who ever asked me what they should do Amazon wise, I always tell them sneakers to start because it's really easy, it's lucrative, and you learn a lot about the process of Amazon. And one of the ways I suggest people, like my bread and butter early on was going in store and RA, retail arbitrage, just going to Nike outlet, Adidas outlet, scanning everything. And you learn the Amazon model very fast doing that. And it sets a good foundation of concepts that are really important later on when you want to get out of sneakers. So I think sneakers have taught me a lot of baselines and principles about business and the Amazon world as a whole that I've been able to apply to other things and other strategies. But sneakers are great. I think it's great. It's like, not saturated.
No, and by the way, like 5 years ago when people were doing it, the pie was a lot smaller. Now Amazon's so much bigger. Yeah. Like more people are buying sneakers on Amazon than ever before. Like that's something to understand. Like, let me ask you a question. What kind of things should people be careful of? What should they watch out for, avoid in regards to sneakers?
I would say the one thing that I've learned that is essential is keep your documentation of your sneakers, because gosh forbid someone claims one of your products as inauthentic, you need to show to Amazon that it's authentic. And I've had nights where I'm literally looking through 1,000 receipts till 1 a.m. because I got to file something for Amazon. I would say keep your documentation and enjoy the process. Like so many people that I talk to, they just want to overnight, oh, I made this much or did this. But like, it's really I always say control the controllables. So if you can control your day in and day out process, don't get so concerned at how much, oh, I made this much this month or I did this much in sales this day. Because at the end of the day, I always say you might not have made progress business wise, but you got a little better. You know, you learned this skill, you learned this, and then one day you're going to get that win and it's like, it's going to be worth it. So, but documentation and you know how it is, reading FBA charts, reading the graphs, just putting yourself actually out there and actually doing the work. But if you do the work, I guarantee you, between going online and in store, there's a lot of money to be made in sneakers. A lot.
Like one of the common questions I always hear in sneakers is like, how do you get ungated in Nike? What's the kind of like, how do you do that? Like if someone's like, oh my God, like I can't sell it. What does that mean? And how do I get ungated? Let me ask you that.
Well, now it's super easy. When I first started, it was like really difficult. Like no one knew how to do it, but it's as simple as getting an invoice from a supplier and getting 10 units. You need to get 10 units of that product. So I would just give a couple of Champs, Foot Locker, Kohl's right now. Those are 3 to get ungated. I just got you ungated for Puma, Adidas, and Nike for free. So, but it's super easy. It's really easy. Back in my day, you'd have to pay someone $10,000 to get ungated in Nike. That's how it used to work.
And that's the funny thing, because back when you started, no one knew how to do this stuff. It was all hidden knowledge. Now it's not even like you have to you have to ask for it. Now people are just sharing on Twitter and Instagram for free. They're like, oh, go to Kohl's. I'm like, fine.
I totally agree. And I think everyone's sharing because, as you said, Amazon's grown so much. Everyone's learning. There's room for everyone to make money. Their pie is bigger, as you said. And what happens when you share that information? You grow your network, as we talked about. So,
agreed. So
you give.
You've talked a bit about like high level, like hustle, network, really get focused down on your goal. You've talked about something kind of like tactics, like actually, there's still lots of money to be made in sneakers. Keep your receipts, get into the keeper charts, really understand that, like the variation listings and all that. And then also share, give, because you're going to start building that tribe, which is going to help you at the high level. So you've been doing this a long time now. You're still in college. You've done $1 million last year, which is absolutely insane. So my God, like massive hats off to you. Like this game continues to blow my mind. I'm like, wow, if only I was that back then, where would I be now? It's incredible. Yeah. But like, tell me about like your business now, and you're transitioning slightly, aren't you? Like what does the future hold? Tell me about that.
Well, I feel like I've dialed down sneakers to a point where like it was getting a little harder to expand, and I wanted to get into something, a greater business model where I was like it was just something that was almost sellable and something that I could get into the next level where I knew people were making the real money, which like the people who I knew were really killing it were doing wholesale. So I started that project probably 3 months ago, and it's been the greatest battle of my life. I honestly can't even believe how many emails I've sent and how many phone calls I've taken. For those like who, I'll explain Amazon wholesale real quick. It's just basically buying products from distributors, mainly name brands, selling them on Amazon. And the pro to this over sneakers is you kind of get reoccurring products and that you can order from these distributors, and you develop a relationship where it's easier to spend money. Because with sneakers, you're only able to spend so much and find so many deals. But with the distributors, once you make these good connections and relationships, it's almost like expanding your network. They pay off, and you have you can go to a distributor every single month, buy $20,000 worth of one product and make $5,000 off that product a month. Then you get 10 products like that, and you're making what, $50,000 a month. So that's how we kind of approach it and seeing it. And we know people doing that too. So once I met people who were doing that, I was, all right, I have to do this. That's been the game.
Why are you going that way instead of sneakers? Like, why not continue to go down sneakers?
Because one thing about sneakers is when I sell a sneaker, there's no I don't really have an asset. Like I used to always think, is my company sellable? And I'd be like, no. But then I knew someone who sold a wholesale business, and their assets were the accounts that they had with these distributors, which is when the distributor grants you access to buy from them. And they were buying the same exact products every single month. And they knew exactly how much each product was netting them. And that seemed like such a better business model to expand and get to the next level. And especially I've met like people who I knew in real life doing 5, 6, 7, 8 million a year. And it was to the point where they were barely working. They were just replenishing the same products every single month. And their business was sellable at that point because they had all these accounts with distributors sneakers that would go with their business if they sold it. So I was like, I kind of want some assets and I want something that's going to build on top of each other, because I think wholesale really builds on top of each other.
If someone's watching right now, because I've heard this story a million times, they're going to be thinking, I would think I want to start selling on Amazon, but you know what? I'm not going to do sneakers. I'm going to go straight into wholesale because I want to build an asset like yourself. What's your advice? Should they do that or should they not? And if not, why not?
Now, I think one of the things is capital is important for wholesale. Purchasing power is really important. That's how you get a lower price, and that's how you kind of get your foot in the door with some of these big name distributors. So I think sneakers is a great way to not only learn about the Amazon game, but you're going to get your capital and working capital up a lot so you can make these bigger investments when you move into wholesale. And I also think wholesale is actually a lot more challenging. In retrospect, there's more logistics. It's way more of a full-time job than sneakers. It'd be better if you understood and grasped the Amazon game for a couple months besides trying to jump in to the next big thing, which is, in my opinion, wholesale. At the end of the day, the sneakers is going to grant you a lot of knowledge, and the wholesale, you need to know a lot. There's a lot of mistakes I see people making, especially when it comes to buying product, that sneakers has taught me not to make those mistakes.
Even buying a $200 pair of sneakers and making a mistake is a lot less costly than buying $5,000 worth of wholesale.
Yeah, trust me, I know too, because I made the big mistake so far too. That's one thing.
You talked about capital gain. So hey man, I'm just getting started on Amazon. I've got $5,000 in capital. I want to jump straight into wholesale. I don't want to be wasting my time on this sneaker malarkey. What would you say the capital should be?
I would say the best distributors that I've worked with, the minimum order quantity is usually 15,000. So and then if it's 15,000, you don't want to just have 15,000 working capital, in my opinion. Especially, how long Amazon can take to pay you and the cycles. I always have so much money stuck in there. So I would say it really depends. But to get to a level where it's worth it with wholesale, I would say probably 20,000-ish. But because if I had less than that, I would just do online arbitrage and retail arbitrage, learn the skills and build the capital up to where you can get to a point to make some real plays. Because the name of the game is it takes money to make money. That's the one thing I've really learned. So it's really important. Yeah.
It's definitely a capital intensive business. And I think even when you talk about man, I've got 20,000, you're well, 20,000 divided by 3 months isn't actually that much per month. And it really starts making a difference. So yeah, I think it's so important. And but by the way, I come back to the Warren Buffett. Rule number 1 is don't lose money. Rule number 2 is remember rule number 1. And when we in our game is about buy product, but don't lose the money on the product. And you are going to make mistakes when you first start. And if you are going straight into wholesale, big purchases of 20,000 down, you're going to have some very costly mistakes. And to get back to where you are is going to be impossible.
I think that's perfectly phrased. 100% perfectly phrased.
Are you going to continue doing sneakers and wholesale, or are you going to blend out sneakers? What's the game plan?
I'm going to keep doing sneakers just because it does pay the bills and makes me enough money where it's there would be no reason to ever stop it. But the goal is to really push wholesale and get to a point where I have a business that I feel a little more confident in, where I know I can replenish certain products and continue to grow and increase my sales monthly. So I think wholesale is the best avenue to do that. And right now, that's all we work on. That's all I do. But I love it. It's great.
I love it. And I'm guessing obviously when you finish college, you're going to focus on the business, not get a job. Is that right?
Yeah, we're gonna put at least a year into the business and see what happens. But I think it'll be great. I think it'll be fun. I'm gonna enjoy it. It's gonna be great.
If you could do $1 million a year in sneakers, which is quite labor intensive, while in college, and the big part, you said this is a capital intensive game. You've already got trading history. Now you're going to access more capital. You're going to have more time. That's going to change the game. I'm very interested to see where you're going to be in a year's time.
Hopefully somewhere good. Yeah.
Oh, I know.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
I know it will be. If anyone wants to get in contact with you, what's the best way?
Instagram, heatsupply0242. I'm pretty active, and I'm always interested in networking once again and meeting new people and learning more about Amazon and what I can do.
Fantastic. I absolutely love it. And hey, thank you so much. It's amazing and unbelievable what you've achieved. I look forward to seeing what's happening in the next year. And hopefully when you finish college, I can fly out and come meet you and actually see the operation in person. Maybe do a bit of another interview to see how you got on in the next year. But I just want to say thank you so much. Well done.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Brilliant. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.